Who are the best players to buy for Game Week 7 in FPL? We are going to be looking at the top 5 players in each position. Guys, make sure you like and subscribe, and let's get right into the video. As always, we will be starting off with the defenders, and once again, Rodon finds himself on the list as one of the top 5 players to buy in FPL. Leeds are 5th for expected clean sheets and 6th for expected goals conceded. So before you look at Rodon and think he's just 4 million bench cover, no. Don't be so naive. He's got good clean sheet potential and good defensive contributions potential as well. A real cheap, great value player at only 4 million. Someone not a lot of people are going to own or start because they think a Leeds defender isn't worth owning, but the Leeds defense is pretty good. The issue is they're sort of underperforming their underlying data at the moment, which is understandable. They are a newly promoted team, but you're never going to find a 4 million defender with more clean sheet potential than this guy or any of his teammates. You know, he's the one with the most defensive contribution potential as well at Leeds. So in my opinion, he is the best Leeds defenders to go for. And the Leeds fixture run, guys, it's really good. As you can tell, across the next 4 game weeks, there's not a single tough game. You could be looking at a couple clean sheets in the next 4. And if Leeds do have a bad fixture run after their next 4, well, you can leave him on your bench because he's as cheap as they come. Next up, we are looking at Chalobah. Chelsea have one of the best fixture runs in the league along with West Ham, and Chalobah kind of surprised me. Well, the Chelsea defense is a lot worse than I thought. Underlying data-wise, they're actually in the bottom 5 for expected goals conceded and expected clean sheets. But then again, in their last 4 games, they have had a couple red cards, so it kind of makes sense why their underlying data isn't so good. You know, when you have 10 men, your underlying data isn't going to be great defensively. What I didn't realise was that Chalobah also has really good defensive contributions numbers, something I did not expect. Along with that, he is getting a lot of goal involvements this season. He is definitely overperforming the expected goals. As you can see, he's got 0.15 expected goal involvements per 90 this season, but 0.56 goal involvements per 90, which is more than a goal involvement every 2 games. And do not expect that to continue because it won't, guys. Eventually that's going to fall off, but he will still be getting returns and some goal involvements across the rest of the season. We just don't know when, and it's not going to happen as much as it has been happening. You could look to Cucurella. You could argue Cucurella is a better option than Chalobah for the 1 mil extra, but with rotation and Chelsea being in Europe this season, I really don't think Cucurella is guaranteed to start every Premier League game this season, so I think Chalobah is a much safer option. Next up, we have Dan Burn. Newcastle had the 2nd best defence in the league this season, very close behind Arsenal. Those 2 teams are levels above absolutely everyone else in the league this season. Every other team can't even touch Newcastle and Arsenal defensively. You're not going to get a lot of goal involvements from Dan Burn, even though he did get an assist last game week, but what you are going to get is reliable clean sheet potential and defensive contribution potential as well. Newcastle have the most clean sheets this season. Their expected clean sheets is a little worse than Arsenal's, but they do have more clean sheets, so we can expect them to be keeping up with each other across the rest of the season. Dan Burn in particular, even though he doesn't get a lot of expected goals, he is a really tall geezer. Let's be honest, he's a tall guy. And Newcastle are going to be relying on set pieces because they have a tall striker as well. So Dan Burn will probably find himself bagging a goal at some point this season. We just don't know when. And if you bring him in, you can't expect it. Once again, you're bringing him in for that defensive contributions potential and the high likelihood of a clean sheet, especially across the next 4 to 6 games. The Newcastle fixture run is really good. Once again, other Newcastle defenders do exist, other Newcastle defenders with higher goal threat and more creative potential. But I like Dan Burn because I like someone who's going to be solid and consistent week in, week out. You know, there's always a chance for defensive contributions, whereas, you know, goal involvements, they come in the easier fixtures. Looking at Dan Burn, if you do play him for a tough game and the clean sheet likelihood isn't that high, you still have a decent chance for defensive contribution, so there's always something you can get, and I just don't feel the same for any other Newcastle defender. Most people would expect to see Senesi in this list, but the Bournemouth fixture run does get fairly tough fairly quickly, and while he is a defensive contributions beast, I don't think he's a player you should be super eager to buy this game week when there's better options available. And in this top 2, I have got 2 Arsenal defenders. I believe Gabriel and Saliba are the best 2 defenders to own in FPL right now. I believe if you don't have Gabriel, you need to buy Gabriel. And if you already have Gabriel, you need to buy Saliba next. These 2 are way too good. Look at the underlying data for their defense. It's unreal. These both have reliable minutes as well. The reason why Calafiori and Jurriën Timber aren't here, despite having more goal involvements, is because with Champions League rotation, I don't think they're going to be starting every Premier League game this season. Arsenal have the potential to keep a clean sheet in every single game this season. They've conceded 3 goals all season. 2 of which have been set pieces. So let's be realistic with ourselves, guys. Arsenal are not going to be conceding many goals whatsoever. Now, Saliba currently is averaging 68 minutes per 90, but that's only because he's been going through an injury. He's going to be playing 90 minutes week in, week out when he's back, no matter how many games they play in a week. If they play 3 games in 7 days, if he's not injured, Saliba is going to start every single one of those games, along with Gabriel. So while Saliba's numbers here in defensive contributions as well look really good, 8.56 per 90 does look very nice. In reality, it's not going to be that high, and he's not really going to be getting many defensive contribution points. Gabriel is that guy who is going to be getting more defensive contributions and more goals, but Saliba is also a solid person who's going to be picking up bonus points and clean sheets whenever Arsenal don't concede. You could risk it and go for Timber or Calafiori. I do understand if you want to take that route because they are getting a lot of goal involvements at the moment, but they are massively overperforming that underlying data in terms of expected goals and expected assists. I prefer someone reliable like Saliba, but the main thing is you own Gabriel. On to the midfield now. We have Enzo Fernandez in the 5th spot. Now, I do believe while Enzo Fernandez is good to own and great to buy, he is only good for the next 4 game weeks. I believe around game week 12 time, Cole Palmer is going to be back to starting ways and Enzo Fernandez is going to be off penalties and playing a little less offensive, playing a more defensive role. Now, how good Enzo Fernandez is as a transfer this game week really depends on how many free transfers you have. If you've only got 1 free transfer, I wouldn't really recommend bringing the guy in. He probably wouldn't even be in your top 5 players. Whereas if you have 5 free transfers like myself, he would probably be higher up on this list because if you can afford to make those short-term moves, Enzo Fernandez is the best option to go for. For the next 4 game weeks, he's going to be playing as Chelsea's number 10. He's going to be on penalties. And as you can see, his underlying data here in the last 4 game weeks has been really good when Palmer's not been on the pitch. Now, while I am saying Palmer is probably going to be out for the next 4 weeks, we don't know that for certain. It could be a little less and it could be a little more. I'm estimating he's going to be back to starting ways around game week 12 after the next international break. So Enzo Fernandez, before Palmer comes back, is probably the best value player in the game at 6.7 million. He is playing as Chelsea's number 10. He's got really good underlying data. He's on penalties and he's also got decent defensive contribution potential as well, as you guys can see here. 8.75 per 90 isn't fantastic, but I wouldn't be surprised if he picked up defensive contributions in one of the next 4 game weeks. We then have Minte, guys. Minte's fixture run is all right. It's not sensational, but it's okay. And the underlying data for him is also really good, very consistent across the board. One of the few players who actually has good creative potential along with goal threat. Most players you're looking at this season really only have the goal threat or the creative potential, but Minte is one of the few that actually has both. And while that Newcastle fixture is fairly difficult, short term, the next game week isn't going to be super easy. I don't see Brighton scoring more than 1 goal. Medium to long term, Minte is really, really good to own. Coming in just above him, a little more expensive with underlying data that's a little better, we have his Analyse. Now, while his underlying data does look really good, he is coming from a smaller sample size, having only started 2 games in the last 4. So just keep that in mind. While his data is really good, it may not be as good as it seems in the long run. His fixture run is quite difficult. Well, saying that, his next 2 games are quite difficult. Home to Bournemouth isn't great, and away to Arsenal is the hardest possible fixture for an attacker in all of FPL. So ideally, you would have some sort of bench cover in game week 9 when he plays away to Arsenal, but then again, you don't need it because Analyse's underlying data across all of last season and this season has been incredibly good. And after that Arsenal game, that fixture run for Crystal Palace is amazing. So you're holding on to him for the long term. Fun fact about Sarr as well, he has returned in his last 4 starts. So he's actually on really good form. In the number 2 spot, we have Bukayo Saka because he is going to be quite crucial for a lot of us who own Haaland. And let's be honest, everyone watching this video probably owns Erling Haaland. As you know, if you've looked ahead, Haaland's fixtures do get a little tougher and he does need some captaincy cover. There's going to be some tough games where he isn't getting a lot of expected goals. And Arsenal's fixture run covers Man City's fixture run almost perfectly. And Saka being on penalties, being on a lot of set pieces, being a premium player, he is the best option to bring in for your Haaland captaincy rotation, despite the fact he is going to be a minute's risk at times and he can be a little injury prone. Saka is such a high priority this week because he fills that captaincy rotation void that we all have in our teams right now. He is once again one of those players who has really good goal threat and really good creative potential. And when I say really good goal threat, it's not amazing, it's all right, it's pretty good, better than most, but it's not sensational. Whereas his underlying data, creativity wise and expected assist wise, it's better than everyone else's by quite a bit. And it has been for, the last couple seasons. Saka's creative output is always so much better than any other players in the league. The issue is his players have consistently let him down and not finished the chances he's created for them. And that was shown last game week, guys. Saka got a really high number of expected assists. He scored a goal and got 0.8 expected goals, but he also got 1.13 expected assists. Yet Recoveries and Eze missed 2 big chances he created for them, which really messed up Arsenal and really messed up Saka's massive chance for a 20-point haul. And I'm not even exaggerating, he genuinely could have come away from that game with 20 points and no one could have complained. Which is why I think Saka is so good, because he's shown his potential to score massive hauls and still be a great captaincy option despite his poor recent form. And in the number 1 spot, we have Semenyo. Semenyo has gone up nearly 1 million in less than 8 game weeks, which I think is unheard of in FPL. You know, correct me if I'm wrong, but I've not seen anyone rise as quick as this guy in a long time. And not to flex, I have owned him since game week 1 because I'm a very smart man. What's crazy about Semenyo is that out of all these players on this list, Semenyo has the highest defensive contributions chances with 9.25 per 90. That's unreal, you know. He's got a good chance of hitting defcons almost every single game week. The underlying data is pretty good. It's not sensational. The expected goals is, you know, top 10 among other players in the league, just a little higher than Bukayo Saka's. The creative potential isn't there. Despite that, he has still managed to come away with a few assists this season. He definitely doesn't deserve these assists though. I'm not going to lie, as a Semenyo owner, we are all very lucky to have these assists. He shouldn't have them. He's overperforming his expected data quite a lot in that sense. And he's doing the same with the expected goals, guys, right? He's got 1 goal every game in the last 4 game weeks, yet he's only really shown he deserves a goal every 2 games. But his finishing has been so good recently, he's been ignoring all the facts, he's been ignoring all the underlying data and scoring more than he should be. And Semenyo is slowly becoming the highest owned player in the game alongside Haaland, so if you don't own Semenyo yet, for the love of God, just bring him in your team. And of course, we are going to finish on the forwards. When I've been selecting the best forwards to buy in FPL each game week this season, I've found that it's either really hard to pick forwards because there's so many good options, or really hard to pick forwards because there's so many bad options. This time I've actually found it fairly easy. Like, all these players are great to own, and I know a lot of people have been hating on Pedro recently, and I'm going to explain why he's still one of the best forwards to own in a bit. But yeah, every player here is deservingly here, and it's not like I've had to scrape people together or I've left good people out. We are going to start off with the Newcastle striker, who I'm not going to attempt to name. I really should Google search how to pronounce his name. Anyway, his expected goals are actually pretty high. I did not expect this player to be a good option going into this FPL season when they signed him, but he's proven to be outputting consistent numbers and having the underlying data to back it up. So, you know, along with that good fixture run, this man is a great FPL asset to own at only 7.2 million. Above him, we have Mateta. Now, Mateta is really annoying. I mean, if I owned him, he'd be annoying, but I don't own him. Mateta's expected goals, it's insanely high. The only person with more is Erling Haaland. The issue is Mateta has been really bad at finishing his chances, like ridiculously awful. When he normally is one of the best players in the league at finishing his chances, he's gone the complete opposite way this season and he's been bad. You know, there's no way to sugarcoat it. He's not been good, and his underlying data creativity-wise has not been great either. But then again, you don't really expect that from any of the forwards, so we're not going to talk about it too much. But yeah, Mateta owners, I really do feel bad for you guys, because you guys have been robbed by your own player week in, week out. And his fixture run is going to get a little tougher, like we talked about Ismail Sarr. Bournemouth and Arsenal are not the easiest fixtures, and you may need bench cover for game week 9. But once again, long term, Mateta is insanely good to own, and Crystal Palace attack is so good. They could score a goal in any game, so you never really want to bench Mateta. And if you do, you'll never really feel comfortable doing it. So yeah, Jean-Philippe Mateta, great player to own. He just needs to finish his chances. After that, we have Pedro. Now, the Pedro underlying data is awful. It's terrible. His output has also been terrible. He's done absolutely nothing these last 4 game weeks. So why do I think he's the 3rd best forward to own in FPL, and why do I think people should hold him / buy him? Well, the Chelsea fixture run, first of all, is the best in the league along with West Ham. And yeah, Pedro's poor underlying data actually has a reason behind it. Chelsea have been picking up red cards recently, so they've been on the back foot. They've been defending more, meaning their attackers can't output as many expected goals or expected assists, meaning they can't score as many goals or get as many assists. You know, if you think about it, it's just common sense. And with this good fixture run, you know, as long as Chelsea don't get any more red cards, it seems pretty obvious to me that, yeah, Pedro is going to be one of the best forwards to own. So yeah, don't be mistaken. Yeah, Pedro is still a really good player to own. I'm seeing a lot of people selling him. His price has dropped. All I can say is to you guys, you know, keep selling him, because all it's going to do is give me more points and make my rank higher when he does eventually get big returns. After that, we have someone who also has poor underlying data and poor underlying data since game week 1. It's been Jarrod Bowen. Jarrod Bowen's not had a single big chance, and he's not created a single big chance this season. You know, on paper, he's god-awful. He's one of the worst players to own. But like I said, West Ham fixture run is absolutely insane, and you guys will know this, but West Ham have been overtaken by Nuno as their new manager. And we all know how good Nuno is. He was great at Wolves, he was great at Forest, and now he's at West Ham. I think West Ham, with this new manager boost on this good fixture run, are going to be an unstoppable force. Well, maybe not an unstoppable force, but they're going to be a hell of a lot better than they have been these last 6 or 7 game weeks. Trust me, guys, if you're looking to buy a forward, look no further than Jarrod Bowen. He has got to be the most underrated forward in the game. Despite having no big chances this season, he's still scored 3 goals. And that's not, you know, something random that's not going to happen again. For the last 3 or 4 years, Jarrod Bowen has consistently overperformed his expected goals in the Premier League, sort of like Chris Wood has been these last couple of seasons. That's why people always overlook Jarrod Bowen, because his expected goals are never super high, but they never need to be super high for him to bag some goals. So yeah, Jarrod Bowen, super underrated, great player, slightly better than João Pedro, but because João Pedro's ownership is so high, I would probably lean towards owning João Pedro, just in case João Pedro does haul and Bowen doesn't. And obviously in that number 1 spot we have Erling Haaland. No one is surprised to see this. If you are surprised to see this, then you're probably not good at FPL. There's not much to talk about with Haaland aside from the fact he does need some captaincy cover in the coming game weeks. You know, away to Aston Villa is not great, playing against Liverpool is not great, and Bukayo Saka is probably the guy you're going to need to cover him for that. Apart from that, Haaland is still the best player in the game to own. He's averaging 10 points per game. If he keeps this up, he'll end on 380 points by the end of the season, and I don't think anyone would be surprised to see that at this point. Anyway, guys, if you did make it this far, thank you very much for watching. You are greatly appreciated, and I will see you all in the next video.